float universe. How long have we known of each other's existence?
I think around maybe 2015. I started the Instagram account in 2014. So if you were doing the float tanks around that time, I found you and I followed every float center. So I,
Yeah.
I was aware of your existence probably around 2014, 15 at the latest. So over 10 years,
Yeah.
11, something like that. 26. Wow, it is over 10 years.
It's a long time
Yeah,
to follow anybody and listen to what they say or what they think about in the world.
indeed. I mean, we both had highs and lows over the past 10 years with the float world. You got stories, I've got stories for sure.
Yeah.
Interesting
Yeah.
world to be in the past 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Forget the context. Well, no, let's do it. No, we're just gonna skip with the preamble because a number of the things that I want to talk with you today about are the power of memes. And all of us look at memes. If you're an adult with you and you have social media, you see memes. And over the course of the last 10 years, maybe plus, that I've been following you, I've found the memes that you post to be the most dynamic, the most interesting, the most provocative, the most multi-layered. And so I wanted to dive into meme magic with you.
Absolutely.
What can you tell us about the power of memes?
I mean, if you can do it right, you can almost have instant virality. I've had it a few times with memes. What I'm struggling with now is it's becoming less memes and more reels, more video content based. And I almost feel like memes are dying out, but a very powerful form where you can distill something powerful into, I mean, I don't know who says the quote, but if you can really break something down into like something sophisticated and dense and you can distill it down to its essence and get that idea across, that's real genius to me. So to be able to take complex ideas, whether it's spirituality or what is floating or something political going on, if you can distill that into something and then hit the funny bone too, because that's another important part. I mean, you can also, I mean, rage bait now is popular. It's really devolving in a way I didn't think it would. Like to be viral now, you almost have to put errors in your spelling or create something that's going to enrage someone where they're going to respond to it because the algorithm responds to people commenting or liking or sharing, and so people have discovered that, hey, if I could just make a spelling error, I'll have 10 people in the comment section saying, oh, you spelled this wrong. Or like, for example, one of the ones I hate the most is 5 facts about whatever thing, and they only give you like 4 facts, and you got 100 people in the comments saying, where is the 5th thing? So it's about rage bait and content engagement at this point. But the essence of a great meme to me is something that's timeless, something that you can instantly, something we all can connect with. It's not super niche. There are a lot of niche memes out there that within their subgroups can garner the attention of the subgroup, but to go worldwide, to hit the funny bone of something we all have in common, that's the goal. That's what I would try to do. And a lot of the best memes you'll put out there are afterthoughts. Like if you put too much effort into crafting it, it won't go anywhere. Or if you're over the, like, I experienced this a lot in 2020, where if you're over the target, you might be able to hit that mark and connect with people, but you're going to get banned. Whether it's vaccines or mask mandates or all that other stuff we've been through. I had a great run from, I don't know, I started in 2014 to 2020, and then 2020 I really lost about half my audience. I stood on the fence for a while because I want to connect with everyone, but at a certain point you got to say, okay guys, this is what I believe here and this is the direction I'm going. In my case it was, don't do the vaccine, don't, the mask is stupid, don't do any of this stuff, and you're going to lose people. So it's been, trying to be more in that state of oneness over the past few years as we move away from that event. But I had a great run from 2014 to 2020. But yeah,
Well,
virality. Go
yeah,
ahead.
No, you're still running. Don't get it twisted, man. It's not like it's an afterthought, because I've watched your numbers grow. I've watched your followers grow. I've watched you, tear down your tear down your account and restart it. I've seen you, edit. Now you have what, five five posts on your history, and six posts, pardon me.
Yeah,
And
at one point I had 18,000. So at the peak of all the content on there, I'd, and a lot of those weren't mine. It was a lot of reposted stuff, but I'd say 10,000 plus original, memes over the past 10 years.
that is
Like,
a mountain. That's a mountain of content. And there's so many different directions we could go, Float, because I think I pay close attention to culture, to masculinity, to um, the milieu, like you do. I feel like I'm on the front foot, and
zeitgeist.
the zeitgeist. Not much gets by me now. The the ability to zig when others are zagging, but keep people with you, bring them in on the joke, and also inform them and make them laugh, and instigate a sort of a thoughtful response from people. I do in my own way, not not very well,
Well,
but
you were recommending dry fasting during holiday season. It's
that's right.
pretty brave.
Yeah, right. Yeah, everybody's in their yeah. People are in their fourth day. Today actually is the conclusion of the dry fast with the group, the international group. So they'll break their 5 day dry fast in about 7 hours. Um, and again, like things like this, I think are important, and I think I want to promote, and I want to talk about. I want to interview people. I want to share information, and that comes at a cost. It comes at a risk. I
Oh
the
yeah.
same censorship that you've experienced. Uh, a lot of us have experienced, who drew a line and said, "Okay, I'm not going to stand for this. I'm not going to go along with this." So I've been pulled off of YouTube twice from an interview with David Avocado Wolf, where we
Hmm.
talked about archons, and um, we talked about reptilians and parasites, turtles all the way down,
Yeah.
masks and vaccines and stuff like that. And that level of censorship, I think it takes someone who has thick skin and has the ability to kind of predict where culture is going. So my question is, in the world of culture, and there's a couple of different narrow spots that I want to kind of go down with you. Where is culture? You've got your finger on the pulse of what's going on and what people are thinking about. Where is culture going now, in this sort of, like, now that we're getting into the Trump era in the West? Like, what's relevant for people?
That's tough to say. With the big thing is the domination of AI and AI slop feeds, and just, for me, even having my mom will send me a video, and I'm like, this is fake, and it's getting to the point where I'm like really having to dig deep, look in the comments. It's getting almost indistinguishable from reality. So that's and the ability, if you can write a good prompt, you can have you can make a music video, you can make you can make it make I sometimes will see what Grok thinks about a meme concept. I will sometimes run my thoughts through Grok and say, put this in a meme form, and I get basically infinite iterations of something that I might have to take. I have a thought about something going on politically, or an idea I want to express about spirituality, and manually doing it through these little apps on the phone and typing out the header and finding the images. I might be able to make two or three variations of a theme in an hour, whereas Grok can do 1,000 in 5 minutes. And then I can just go through those and say, okay, this is the closest thing I want to what I was trying to convey. So where it's going is anyone's guess at this point. I think there's going to be a lot of people that are going to just, like people like photography, for example. There's still people that want to do a dark room. There's still people that want to mess with film. And the majority are just doing digital, and it's just easier. It's more cost effective, but it's art versus, I don't know, mass commercialization. Sometimes as an artist, you sacrifice the, like the craftsmanship for, hey, I'm just going to get this idea out there and see where it goes. I think what's important for me, and what hits the most is honesty and realness. And so in an era that things are going to get more fake and more indistinguishable from, did a human make this? This is a human idea. I think just being genuine and being honest, it'll still be conveyed. But in terms of your question of where this is going, and it's hard for me. I can just say, look, make videos. It's getting harder and harder because the apps don't push pictures; they push reels. So you have to say, okay, and then you see this trend of people putting mistakes or rage baiting, so they get content engagement. I still say stick to the genuine, and being genuine, you're going to always lose people going forward. But a lot of people will come back and say, hey, you know what? You were right about the vaccines, or you're right about these things. I might have lost you a couple years ago, but I realized you were right, and I'm coming back. So just be honest, stay focused on the honest truth. And I mean, I don't know where it's going. If I did, I would be rich, or uh, I'm playing catch up a lot of times. I'm saying, oh shit, I like it took me about 6 months to figure out, and I saw someone today. They're like, you need to be making reels. You need to be making 10 to 12 reels a month, and each platform. Like for example, TikTok just got demonetized. Like these people are making thousands of dollars a month on TikTok. TikTok was just bought out a couple months ago by Western interests. It was Chinese run app, but now the West, aka things I won't talk about on this program, but interests that are adverse to the advancement of a Western civilization have invested a significant amount in TikTok. And just recently, they demonetized it. Now, TikTok has never been good to me, whether it was Chinese owned or Western owned. So I got banned on TikTok a few times. I've tried coming back, and it just every time I get something viral, it would be taken down and my account would be punished. So I said, to hell with this. And that's another thing I had to deal with is you can be right on top of it, and you can have like why am I going to spend all this time making all this great content when nobody's going to see it, and I'm going to be punished for putting it out there? So I don't know. It's and a lot of times I think it's recently it's like a race to the bottom, especially with the
Mm.
AI slop. And again, it's only people are motivated via the money, and because the apps reward certain behavior, which is AI slop and rage bait, content engagement via not the most honest methods. It's very hard for someone who's trying to play it straight.
Yeah.
Um, and again, like one of the issues I'm facing is because it's videos now. If I want to be out there and be viral, I gotta put my face out there. Or what I hate is these people that I'm kind of anti AI in a way where I don't want somebody to be able to make a copy of me and just put whatever they want through my mouth. So I'm kind of hesitant with where this is going, which is
Mm.
kind of why I'm kind of behind. Which I don't want my mom seeing me on her Facebook account, scrolling through her account and seeing me, and then seeing me saying something that I never even said.
Selling dick pills or something.
That too, and that's the other thing. It's so monetized. It's I kind of just still do the memes for the love of it, and they can still go viral. And my biggest accomplishment in terms of a meme is when I see it years later. I see
Ah.
it. I'm scrolling Facebook. I'm scrolling Instagram, and it's an account I don't even follow. And there is one of my memes. Still 5, 6, 7, 9, 10 years later, still going strong because there's a universality to it. There's a
Yeah.
something we all relate to. Like certain things in spirituality are going to be with us forever. Certain things about mushrooms or novel concepts like the float tanks is still not a people. Not one of the reasons the float stuff, and I haven't made as much float content as I used to be. It's such a novel niche thing that even to this day I run into people like, oh, what are you talking about? I've never heard of that before.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. I think I feel the same way that you do. Even though I'm doing selfie videos every single day on Instagram, lots of reels, lots of direct to camera stuff. And I've dipped my toe in the TikTok water, especially with the dry fast content that has done okay. When I was really consistent, the last time I did a dry fast, I posted daily updates multiple times a day about, hey, I haven't had food or water. This is day 4 of no food and water. This is what's going on. Like that did okay, and it didn't get censored. But I will not post pictures of my children on the internet.
Oh, definitely not. Yeah.
Like my kids are 9 and 12. There's maybe 3 or 4 photos of them from when they were really teeny tiny before I decided like, nah, I'm not gonna play that. I'm not gonna post their pictures on the internet before they have a choice or a say in the matter. But I I think you're right. I think that the stuff that resonates most with people is true or will always be true. These, myth, legend, spirituality, death, enlightenment, those things are always going to be relevant, and it will switch away. People will kind of lose their way and then come back, and then lose their way and come back. I wanted to ask you, you said that you did have people come back around and say, "Hey man, you were right. This I got duped." Because I have not experienced that yet. I have not.
Oh
I, have not
yeah.
I don't have a single person, including people in my family, that were like, "Sean, you were right. The vaccines were bad. The masks were bad." Like I'm glad you got some validation.
I mean, it is validation ultimately. 99 times out of 100, I've been validated, and a lot of times I won't get any credit or anybody acknowledging it. But I do get time to times DMs from people that are like, "Hey, I used to follow your podcast, and you said something I disagreed with." Well, let's say it was vaccines. For that was a big one, vaccines. I was always, like, not a good idea. Let's hold off at a minimum. Just hold off. But I was really ultimately really against it, and I'm like, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And a lot of people that didn't do it, and they saw friends or family that did do it. These are the people that came around and said, "You know what? I'm so glad I listened to you." Because I took a lot of shit for it. A lot of people that stuck their neck out for it, which is where I had this, but it's me being honest though. Like what I can really tell a grifter from a truth, a real truth, because there's a lot of people in the truther community that will get on the grift, man. They won't. They might initially have good intentions, but they see the money in it, and they'll follow something even then they know it's a grift. I've never monetized my situation, and that's one of the reasons why I can sit in this position and say I'm not a grifter, because I've never offered anything where you pay me money, or there's a subscription service, or I did a Patreon for 2 months, and it was like $2, and you got a bunch of extra podcast content, to be entertained. But I was never, hey, take it or leave it. This is who I am. These are the ideas. I think they're true. And also being honest, hey, I was wrong about certain things. I admit I was wrong, or maybe you shouldn't do this. Like I've kind of walked back psychedelics a little bit because, the first 5 or 6 years of this account, when I was heavily doing them, I was promoting them. And then, after you take a step back, hindsight's always 2020. Some people shouldn't take these things. Some people should, hesitate when smoking DMT, or high doses of acid, or certain kinds of diets. I've never been a big pusher of a diet, because my thing is, hey, your body is unique. You're a unique bag of chemicals. What's going to work for them may not work for you. It may work for you. So I've never had a hard on for that kind of stuff. But I have had moments where I have, like the QAnon stuff, big into the QAnon stuff when it was happening. And
Right.
I still think there are parts of it that are valid and legitimate, but in terms of how it's panned out, how it's played out, I've had to walk some of that back. I've had to say, hey, you know what? I was probably wrong about these things. I was duped. And that's the other thing. You got to be honest in the delivering, and then you got to be honest saying, hey, you know what? I was wrong. And a lot of people, because they have they have a vested interest in getting paid, they are not going to walk it back, or they're going to lie to their audience. So I think that's one of the key factors is people like really like what I do. And I have, if I wanted to be, I could be a cult leader, or I
Yeah, you did.
could, but I just can't. I can't, karmically do that. I'm karmically bound, where I'm like, that's let one thing you don't want to do with a spiritual, leadership role like that. It's supposedly really bad karma to walk people off a cliff spiritually, knowingly.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, but there's a lot of grifters out there, and a lot of people pushing. Another thing, I've never wanted to do advertising. I've never been really offered too much in advertising, because the content's been too marginal, and But just be honest. Honesty is the best policy.
Yeah. People are going to gravitate, they're going to kind of come and go based on what continues to resonate with them. And if you are a fan of Float Universe and you've been following Float for a long time, but then you have kids. You may gravitate away from that type of content. I can't deal the samsara stuff.
I
Right?
see
Like,
that. I see that all the time where it's like, why did this? I look sometimes down my followers list of people I'm usually following back, and I'm like, why did this person unfollow? But I'm like, oh, I just went on a 6 week, run of, and like for example, I just quit weed. I'm almost at 60 days of no
nice.
smoking weed after doing it basically nonstop for 14 years, and there's a lot of people that don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
And these are some of the people too that are like, hey, I've come back to you because you were right about weed. I didn't want to admit it at the time. I was so triggered by your content, but I was actually addicted to weed, and I examined what you were saying, and I took some time, and I realized I too had a problem, and I'm sorry for sending you a nasty DM or unfollowing. So it's basically been the vaccines and the weed stuff where I've had people come back and say, hey, you know what, you were right. Weed can be addictive because I'm not, in my experience, it's more psychological than physical. The physical dependency lasts a week to maybe a month at the longest, and I'm still recovering from 14 years. You're not going to de-pickle a cucumber overnight if it's even possible. But I've just be honest, and even when you fuck up, be honest. That's, and people are very forgiving too. So that's been why I have a bunch of diehards that have been with me since 2014.
Yeah. Yeah, they'll the season, a lot can change in 10 years, and if your lifestyle changes or your life situation changes or you get a new job, you're gonna, the way that you consume media is gonna shift, and as seasons of your life change, you go back to things that resonate at the deepest level, that myth, um, legend. I'm big on Joseph Campbell and the hero's journey, which is really, it's really everything. It's life. It's this incarnational wheel that we're all on. Is this another journey, another hill to climb, another dragon to slay? That stuff is always going to be there. It will always ring true. And if people are offended by your position on masking, or don't want to acknowledge the fact that they're addicted to weed, and then they kind of come around on that, they can always come back. And one thing that I think that you and I have in common is this pursuit of truth, the pursuit of awareness and understanding. And it's gray. It's not binary. It's not. The people who I have watched who are not that interesting, or maybe don't work very hard, or my opinion, I just don't resonate with the stuff that they're putting out. A lot of it is like really sensational. It's one way or the other. They're all in on this thing or all in on that thing, and that's what gets clicks, and that's what grows your audience. And I have never been that. This podcast has never been that. And I think that you're similar. Like, you're okay, you're considering opposing ideas and then finding something interesting to say about it. And that's just not what blows accounts up and gets popular.
That's something to contend with, and it's also how I judge. Okay, like for example, I'll put a concept out there that I'm pretty centered on. At least I think I'm centered on the concept, and I'll put the concept out there, and I'll realize, wait a minute, the collective, right? Because another thing about this account, me, has always been this mirrored experience with the audience. The reflections of self in other people, and when I put something out there that triggers the audience, I'm like, okay. Especially, for example, if it triggers me, if it's triggering me, and I'm able to talk about it and convey it in a meme form, I know it's gonna, because this time around with my weed journey, I haven't been as polarized and triggered with my, is it good, is it bad? I'm really centered in the middle. It can be both. But before, when I tried to quit and I'd put it out there with a really I wasn't anti-weed, but the energy I had behind it, people that were polarized on the opposite side of it got really pissed off because, oh, this is anti-weed universe. This is I hate weed universe. and I'm just trying to, at least I thought at the time, a relatively centered positionality. But no, to them, I was a Nazi against weed. I was, the most. But I'm like, no, dude, listen, you have a problem. You're obviously triggered by someone saying that you may have a problem, because I'm not saying you should stop or it's this poison that's going to kill you. I'm saying it may cause psychosis. You may have an addiction with it. it's not my, like you have to deal with where you're at. But no, that's being centered does not get clicks and views.
Right.
To the extent where you're going to make a big name out of it, until you get to the point where you are like Ram Dass level spiritual guru, where you have that much of a following. It doesn't, you don't survive on virality. You just, you have a meaty audience that is consistent.
Yeah.
But yeah, the thing about online content, though, it's like I said, rage bait is polarity based stuff where the information given or the presenter is not centered. One of my
Right.
favorite rage bait things now is every celebrity is either is either a tranny, or they are wearing a mask or something. There's nobody, or like nobody can accept the fact that, hey, some people just look alike, or hey, that woman, that celebrity that you think is a man probably just took a lot of human growth hormone. A lot of these women that get older, they take chemicals to enhance their beauty, or make their youth go longer, but it really makes them look a lot of times very masculine. So it doesn't mean they're transsexual. It doesn't mean that Sandra Bullock is a transsexual. It maybe she took, like they refuse to see other possibilities.
Sure.
It's either they're transsexual, alien overlords, worshiping Baphomet, or nothing. There's no grounds for any kind of conversation. So it's very polarized. And you know my content used to sit in the middle, and I've gone back to the middle. But yeah, you saw a big shift from 2020 to about 2023, 2024, where I was, hey, you know what, uh, but now also it's like, it's everybody's saying things I said 10 years ago. So it's like I don't feel like
Yes.
I don't feel like rebellious anymore.
Right. Well, conspiracy. Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. Yeah. Like I read David Icke in college and resonated with it, and am open to the idea of, you know, um, 8 families ruling the planet. So I'm open to that, and I'm considerate of that, but I don't need to keep talking about it. And when that comes around again and it comes up again, it's like, yeah, I'm with you. I've been there, and I'm open to it, but I don't believe that we're on a prison planet, and that, this sort of Gnostic view of like we're stuck here and we can't get out.
Yeah.
I want to go back to weed though, really quick, because weed is now, will always has been, a trigger point for a lot of people. You know, the Are you familiar with the idea of like a master plant in like the ayahuasca sort of
Yeah.
universe of, yeah, weed is a tricky one, right? Because it obviously has a lot of benefits to a lot of people in its various forms, and the the form and format of the way that people are smoking now is, it's too strong, it's too quick, it's too convenient, and even though it is a master plant, just like lavender, just like dandelions are master plants, these medicinal plants that have a lot of upside, but also, if you do too much of it, it's going to stop playing nice. Do you think that that people would be happier if they didn't rely on weed to be at the grocery store or talk to their wife or watch a movie?
I mean, if you need that, you got to, honestly, if you need that to make that, like bearable. Like, for example, a lot of people, they stop smoking weed. They realize, wait, I've been working this shitty job forever because it made it okay. It doled me down to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm okay working here. But the minute they stop smoking weed, it's like, oh my God, I have really, set the bar low, and I've settled for less. And so if you need to depend on anything, I think you got a problem. You should really need no crutches. If anything, crutches are making you go slow, right? You take those crutches off, you can run. The thing about weed is, I saw a wonderful illustration of every drug possible on like a poster, and quadrants of like stimulants and antidepressants, and each extreme on each four corners, and dead smack in the middle was marijuana. It can be an hallucinogen, it can be an antidepressant, it can be a stimulant, it can be all these things.
Hmm.
It is a master plan, and it's a wonderful thing, and I love it. And so, as much as people say, "Oh, you hate weed, you shit on weed," I actually love it. I'm just saying I've struggled with it myself, and I had the era where I was addicted to the pins when the pins first came out. The convenience, the no smell, the no dealing with a lighter, no ashes, no bong, no nothing, just stealth, And if you can ghost it, you can do it anywhere. And so I've had many eras where I have my own journey of, okay, it is too much, it is too strong, it is too available. Um, Again, like I used it. Most people I think are using it for escapism, and in my specific example, escapism of pain. Now, for people that have chronic pain issues, this is one of the reasons I got into the whole float tank journey. That really was a multidimensional tool in many respects that helped me on so many levels. But physically, it really worked really well for somebody who was in a chronic neck and back pain issue. Marijuana went hand in hand with it when I was doing all that floating and lived at the float center. Great tool. It's superior to alcohol, superior to I believe pharmaceuticals. So if you are without any possibility of doing any better than weed, if you can't heal your problems, and if you cannot, you know, it's the best alternative to actually, if you can't heal the ultimate, because my whole thing is get to the core of the issue. Stop wearing the band-aid forever and heal what's under the band-aid, so we have to keep using these crutches and these band-aids. And so for me, I had this epiphany, this final like round with quitting weed. I'm like, why is this so difficult? You know, and it was for me. I realized I was always coming back to it because physical pain, my neck, and all this. It was like, okay, well, I'd rather be stoned and be a pleasant person than be angry and in pain and just a brutal person to deal with because I'm physically in pain. So by addressing the neck issue, I really did a lot of work. I've gotten to the point where it's manageable without weed. And so a lot of people, and it's not always physical escapism. That is my specific example. And in addressing the physical nature
Hmm.
of what was bringing me back into that arena, I was able to say, you know what? Okay, this isn't worth it for me anymore. I'd rather have more money. I'd rather not be running around trying to find more weed, always smoking and coughing and blah blah blah. Get at the core issue. A lot of people don't want to do that, and a lot of people, it is mental escapism. They have a supposedly a mundane existence. They have a shitty job, or they have a ton of issues psychological that maybe they've been abused. Work on that. And I'm not saying it can be healed ultimately. I want to believe that everyone can be healed, whether it's physically, mentally. I really believe that. A lot of people will say, no, my pain is chronic and there's just no way around it. Well, then you don't believe in miracles. Um, but I do believe if you really put the effort in, you can get to a point where you may not need it. Now, but if you can't, if I'm wrong, then yes, I think weed is a great tool for most people. But the people that bitch and complain online, they have issues, and I talk to them and I start just saying, what's really going on? Why are you using this? And 99 times out of 100, it's some form of escapism.
Yeah. Anything that you do every day that you rely on to feel good is worth analyzing. And I would take that as far, even, as food and water, which is as about extreme a take as you can possibly
Oh,
imagine.
sugar's the
Sugar.
epidemic of the this century and the last, for sure.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. If you rely on it to feel like yourself, then it's worth exploring, and it takes a lot of courage to inspect that, and it takes time to inspect that, and it takes energy to inspect that. And one of the themes that keeps coming up over the course of now 500 or 350 some odd episodes of this podcast is, in order to make changes in your life, you have to develop an energy to be able to expend to address it, right?
Yeah.
So, right, like if you want to take a look at your mental health, you've got to actually charge the battery up, charge the physical battery up, so that you can expel some energy to analyze it, to look at it. If you want to address your nutrition, if you want to address your addictions or predilections or even negative thought forms in yourself, you've got to have gas in the tank to do that work. And it's tough to do at 5:30 after a work day whether you have kids or not, it's dark out, and it's like, okay, now I'm gonna, after a hard day's work, now I'm gonna take a look at my life, and
Totally.
right, and
My saying is this: it's like you're laying in a ditch, right? And it's easier to continue to lay in the ditch than it is to put forth effort to crawl out of the ditch, and this is why
right,
people remain in the ditch.
right, and the benefits, the fruits of that labor is essential to a quality of life, because what the fuck else are you doing if not trying to improve, trying to get better, smarter, sexier, more thoughtful, more connected with God, more present for your family? If you're not doing that work, then you're just existing. You're just going through the fucking motions, and a lot of people are stuck in this wheel, this rat race
Broken
of
record.
just over and over. It's probably started when you were, 14 or 15 and you got your first job. For me, it was at a golf course as a caddy, and it's like, oh, I work now. Shit. All right. Well, I guess
Yeah.
I'm in for, I'm going to clock in till the day I die. That has obviously changed for me as I, got into entrepreneurship and haven't had a boss since 2011. But if you're not doing that work, then you're not really living. You're not on the hero's journey at all. You're just sort of like getting whooped around by the tide. Only dead
Mhm.
fish go with the flow. And I think it's worth doing whatever you can to summon all the strength that you have to take a look at your life. And that's why that's why I'm a life coach. That's why I work with
Yeah.
high level people all around the world, is because there's more work to do. There's more curriculum. There's more dragons to slay. There's another journey to go on. And I think by watching you communicate to the world, whether it's nofap or weed, or whether it's your spiritual practice, there that communication to, like, I'm interested in my own life and I have questions for myself, and I'm just going to keep asking those questions and see where it goes.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think the biggest issue across the board for people around the world is lack of consciousness. It's unconsciousness. Forgive them, Father; they know not what they're doing. Which is why I'm again a big proponent of the float tank. The float tank personally brought me. I didn't meditate at all. I was interested in it for years. But the float tank, laying there in that water, brought me into body consciousness, body awareness, brought me into a higher state of consciousness where I could step back and, for the first time in my life, really look at the situation and say, "Oh, wait a minute. First of all, I didn't know this was wrong. Second of all, let's do something about it." So I would say most people's problem is they're not even aware that they have a problem. And then when they do confront it, it's like, okay, yeah, now I have to expend the effort. I've got to step out of my comfort zone. I've got to crawl out of this ditch, which is going to take considerable effort sometimes to get to that point where I want to be. Because most people are laying in a ditch. They're, asleep at the wheel, laying in a ditch, unconscious to most of the stuff that's going on in their life, running on autopilot, no fault of their own. That's what awakening is, right? So that's why I still at this point, as much as I've had a back and forth with the float tank, and I've never changed my position on it. It's just the world's changed, and that's a whole nother topic. But I recommend self-awareness, self-examination, and that can unravel so many things. And if you pull out the right string, the whole thing falls apart. So my big push still is for, and again, which is why psychedelics is another powerful tool of self-examination. So I still am a proponent of psychedelics, particularly mushrooms and LSD. LSD is much harder to get these days. If you can get it set and setting, I recommend. If you have a predisposition to schizophrenia, maybe stay away. But the float tank is 1,000 pounds of Epsom salt. You're the master at that as well, Mr. Float Seattle. But it's a powerful tool that, unfortunately, over the past few years, I've seen so many float centers close down.
Yeah.
I had the opportunity to buy one not too long ago, and it was just financially, the way the world's going right now, it's so hard to make that a sustainable business model. But please go out there and support your local float centers. I know it's going to be upwards sometimes of $100 for a session, depending on your market. I'm wearing the Float Madison shirt today.
Nice.
That's Greg down in I lived in Wisconsin for 2 years, and I went to all the float centers in the Midwest, and no offense to anybody else, but he runs the best operation and one of the nicest, gentlest souls you'll ever meet. and affordable. He has some of the most affordable prices as well. So if you're in the Midwest, go to Madison, Wisconsin, and check out that. But float tank, find a way to self-examine. If you can't get to a float tank, meditation. This whole journey started for me with YouTube hypnosis videos, YouTube self-hypnosis videos. Find one that works for you. Now, I was getting into this, like, I want to be like Bob Proctor and, be rich and successful and Tony Robbins type stuff, but it led down this rabbit hole of spirituality and, the truth, right? So that's why I'm like you. I'm hungry for the truth, and even if it costs me friends, if it costs me money, I need to know the truth at all costs. So
Yes.
I keep pushing.
Yes. Yeah, it is going to cost you. It's going to cost you your friends. It's going to cost you time. It's going to cost you money. It's going to cost you opportunities. But it is the most important work. And just to piggyback off what you've said, if you don't have a lot of energy, you don't have a ton of time, you are curious about yourself and your own personal development and how your mind works, float tanks are the fastest, legalist way to do that introspection, because in 60 minutes in a float tank, you're going to have some answers, but you're also going to have the right questions that come out. Why am I like this? Why do I think like
Mm-hmm.
this? What's going on for me? Why am I in this relationship? Why am I in this job? Why does my back hurt so much? And
Absolutely.
that's
That's what unlocked the whole neck situation. I'm laying in this float tank, completely relaxed, and 1,000 pounds of warm Epsom salts, and my whole body's jacked up. I'm like, I never noticed one side is way higher than the other, and that just led me down this journey to heal my neck and back issues. But it's been a long road, and there's been a lot of detours and stoppages, but it's been worth every minute of it. And yeah, the float tank, you're right, the most powerful legal. I mean, you're going to get yogi type meditation in a cave. Guy's been in a cave for 20 years. You're going to get that. I mean, I'm not bullshitting.
yeah.
You know how it is. I'm preaching to the choir here. If I had an infinite amount of money, if money was not an issue, I'd be putting float tanks in airports.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We barked up that tree. We tried to get we were nearly signing a contract to put a float center on campus at Microsoft.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking to the sort of director of their, health program and benefits program, and we were going to put 2 tanks on campus in Microsoft. Ultimately, didn't do it, but we talked to SeaTac Airport as well. Yeah, it is tough to run that business. The margins are low, still very not.
It's personality driven too. It really is. Like the person that is running that ship,
Yeah,
it's going to dictate whether it's a success or not. Because if you don't have a centered person that's one of the reasons why I don't want to do it anymore, is I become less wanting to deal with the public. And you got to be really good at dealing with every personality type, the apprehensive to the gung ho guy coming in on mushrooms, right? I've had both sides of the spectrum. And then we did it during COVID too, which is what caused, again, the business partner. We had a great thing going in 2019 when we started, and then the thing happened, and then we went different ways politically, and the business, once I left, it's like Steve Jobs dying. Apple's doing pretty good, but it's not the same leadership, or Walt Disney dying, right, or some shit like that. You need a charismatic leader who can work with the public, and I'm convinced that float centers live and die by the guy running it, or the woman, whoever's running it.
yeah, yeah. The Float Seattle locations have grown since I sold in 2018 at 2 locations. They've grown to 5, and some of the other float centers in this area, all of the other float centers in this area have now either sold to Float Seattle or closed their doors.
Mm-hmm.
So those guys are still doing such a good job. I went in a couple of weeks ago with my family, and we did sauna and cold plunge. We didn't float, but we spent probably 2 hours inside the float center.
I love both of those modalities too. Definitely, especially sauna. I'm a huge sauna guy.
Yeah. I want to change directions a little bit, because I don't have very many people to talk to about this sort of stuff that I'm interested
Sure.
in. And so this is really just you and me hanging out. Are you familiar with the phrase "do it for the plot"?
I mean, I might know a variation on that. So, for the sake of the audience as well, please let me know what you mean by that.
So one of my favorite podcasts is a podcast called Rune Soup, and it's hosted by a guy named, I gotta find him, Gordon something, Gordon White. he's friends with Greg Carlwood from the Higher Side Chats, which is,
Mm-hmm.
I think the best conspiracy podcast in the world. And he just did an episode exploring this concept of do it for the plot. And I thought of you when I was listening to this episode. So, do it for the plot is an internet slang phrase, a term that encourages people to make bold, spontaneous, or even risky decisions to create interesting life experiences and stories, viewing oneself as the main character of their own life's narrative. It's essentially a modern take on the acronym YOLO, and gained popularity on social media posts around 2021. It is the antithesis of YOLO, because YOLO is not only not true because you live more than once, you're going to come
Right.
back, number one. YOLO is sort of a nihilist, like, fuck it, I'm going to buy bottle service at the club, YOLO,
It's short-term thinking.
short-term thinking.
Yeah.
It's degrading. Whereas do it for the plot is a take on maybe the cyclical nature of incarnation and reincarnation. And it says, this is super, super fascinating. So this is a phrase popularized by social media personality Serena Kerrigan, who used it in a TikTok video stating, "This is your reminder that if something works out, great. And if it doesn't, it's for the plot."
I'm a believer in that by default. I like to believe in not paranoia but proanoia. Everything's ultimately working out for your benefit, even if it's not immediately present or understandable. Long term, you're going to say, "Oh yes, that worked out for me." Looking back, but I just a lot of times do it out of boredom. Like I don't tend to do well with a cyclical, monotonous situation. So a lot of times, yeah, I will throw a monkey wrench, or I will deviate from my normal way of thinking or plan just to experiment. I'm a big experimenter as well. So I kind of live by that without knowing it. And I try to do things for the love of it, and for like follow the truth of my soul, which is, hey, this might not pay the most money, or I might not get anything out of it in terms of notoriety or anything else, spectacle, but I'm doing it for me. And I'm more, if I can enrich you by enriching my soul, that's great. But I'm always usually doing something for my own entertainment, which, one of those Steve Jobs things of like, hey, we built the Mac for us. You like it because we like it. I'm
Yeah.
I'm not trying to serve an audience. I'm trying to say, hey, take it or leave it. I think that's another thing people like about me is I'm not. Sometimes I'll be in alignment with a trend or the zeitgeist. A lot of times I like to be the antithesis. I like to be the one that pushes back and say, hey, there's a reason they're usually pushing narratives and things on us as a society. They want to cattle herd us in a direction they want us to go in. But hey, look at the counter to it. Like, look at the opposite here. Examine life differently. I think that's why I like psychedelics. It opens you up to infinite realms of novelty and dimensions of reality that you wouldn't even know about if it didn't take a walk on the wild side, if you didn't deviate. I think it's super important. I look at the world as a random number generator, and I try to avail myself to the most to situations where I'll have the most amount of potential novelty. So doing a routine every day, even if I'm stuck in a routine, I will go a different way home from work, or I will operate like the floating. I will switch up the music. I will always test things, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, hey, But I'm totally for that saying. I live that.
I want to promote this idea in every way that I can, because I think that this not only is this the antithesis of YOLO, which is so hollow and dark in my opinion. I want to start promoting this as much as I can, because in my world of nutrition and fitness, it's so funny too, Float, because I am not like a nutrition expert. I'm not a fitness expert. I do a bunch of shit. I do a bunch of biohacking stuff, starve myself of food and water and do that in a group with people, cold plunges or 75 hard.
Well,
All
there's
this,
something there's something to be said of the beginner's mind, right? You're not some expert that is
right.
had the hard on for it the way it's always been and the way you think it should be done. You're always open to exactly.
Right. And if you decide, okay, for the plot, I'm going to wake up early for a week. I'm going to see how that feels to wake up early and meditate, or wake up early and go do a float tank, or I'm going to do it for the plot. I'm going to do 75 hard. I'm going to work out twice a day for 75 days in a row. I'm going to eat clean. I'm going to drink a bunch of water and read some personal development. Your life's going to change. Do it for right.
The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek, I think is the quote. And that's a big one too. It's like if you the comfort zone, another thing I have is the comfort zone is the coffin. You can be comfortable, but it's going to be boring, and you'll be comfortable, but it's going to be boring, and it's going to be the death of your soul, because you're going to just be, this monotonous machine at a certain point. And you can come in and out of higher levels of consciousness. That's happened to me where I've, kind of just, cruised along for a while and didn't seek the novelty, rode the comfort for a while. But, there's certain things I haven't done. Like I've been told for the past 5, 6, 7 years on this account by multiple experts to drink my urine.
Sure.
And I have many reasons why I haven't.
You haven't done it yet?
I've had just a little, drop.
Just a nip?
The main thing for me is the reason I don't engage in it is not that my diet is dirty, but certain things just, your urine isn't going to taste great. And the guys that I talked to that were experts in urine drinking had very strict diets. One guy was just doing coconut water or milk or whatever, and that's it. So yeah, it's not going to be bad to drink your urine if it tastes like coconuts, but if you're eating all this food and all these different chemicals and additives, your body, it's a waste product. But I am a believer that urine does have therapeutic benefits. I just personally, there's a lot of things I say, okay, that's probably true. I'm just not either brave enough or wanting to put my reputation out there. Oh, he's the piss drinker. Because every woman I talked to that was either going to be a potential partner or I was dating or something, that if they knew about the account, they were like, do you engage in the urine drink? And the truth is, no, I don't. Because I want to be able to answer honestly, and it's just it's a turnoff for people. So how much of an oddball do you want to be? Because the further you are out in terms of being an oddball, the harder it is to get in that mainstream and to fit comfortably in. And that has its pluses and minuses as well. Balance ultimately and being centered is the key.
Yeah. I think it's a matter of time before you jump on that. I'm not there yet either. I've had it a couple of times, but it's come up quite a lot recently, and I've been on some pretty large podcasts where urine therapy comes up. I want to do a dedicated episode with a couple of people to really inspect it. But yeah, I mean, this idea of take a risk, take a chance, stay in curiosity of your life. I'm not sure if you follow Bashar, but like,
oh yeah,
right,
definitely, yeah.
Find out the thing that excites you. Devote your time and attention to the maximum on that thing, and let go of the results. Let go of your expectations
of outcome. Yeah,
of outcome.
Yeah. People like do that, because I've hit funks and points where I'm like, man, I'm pretty stagnant right now. I don't know what to do. And like my mom, for example, she's like, follow your passion. I go, Mom, my passion right now is women and drugs. Okay. They're not ultimately it's not like a healthy pursuit. Right. So, try to find a healthy passion that's not going to put you in jail or just, destroy your body from the inside out. Meth excites me. No. Don't get into that. Don't get into that.
Yeah.
But, there is truth to that. I do following my excitement and my curiosity is led to I've always wanted to try float tank since I read about it when I was a little kid in the 90s. I'm like, wow, John Lilly, little box full of water. That sounds so cool. But at the time you had to live in San Francisco or New York City, somewhere where, there was a handful. And now, it's basically available, within maybe an hour or two of where anyone at is in this country. You could probably reach a float tanner, especially if you're in the city. But follow your excitement. And that's what the meme journey has been about too, is following that, spreading those ideas and distilling the idea to its simplest conveyable form with a little touch of humor. Because I look at the phone like, okay, people are stuck on their phones, and it's really led to, I think, a shitty music and film industry in terms of everything's made for your phone and these shitty little speakers now, not big screens and nice audio systems. So I looked at memes as a chance to, okay, I'm going to microdose your reality with a concept that you might be foreign. It might be foreign to you. You might be apprehensive to it. And so they're scrolling your phone and you see a meme and it conveys that idea in like a split second, and it can take you on a whole journey down rabbit holes that will ultimately sometimes change your life, usually for the better. So that's been the goal with the memes, is it's an opportunity to have your awareness and attention, because I know I'm only going to have it for a split second. I know myself when I'm watching YouTube videos, I might get 2 minutes into a YouTube video and I can't stand the guy's voice or just the way they're putting I move on. I have an infinite amount of options. Same thing with the phone. I have an infinite amount of options. I've got a limited time span to get in your face. So I've got to make it count. And memes, as much as they're not being pushed as they used to, I still think it is a viable form. And I will continue to do it at this point just for the love of the game, if anything. Um, but it's the world's greatest game of caption this picture. That's all it is. You're captioning a picture in a way. And if you can, like I said, if you convey humor, if you convey a complex idea, some people are and I think there's a natural ability to it. And a lot of times, as much as I have a gift for it, if I don't stay consistent with a practice, I'm not as sharp. It's as simple as that. Anything, and no matter how talented you are, you've got to stay consistent and work at it. Because if I take 6 months of memes or making videos, I got to get that momentum going again. It's just not the same. So, stick to itiveness is important. Being stubborn, but yeah, memes I'm going to continue to do because I get the joy out of it still. I make myself laugh. It comes down, like I said, Steve Jobs making that product. You're doing it for yourself. And because we're human and we all are pretty much the same, the human condition is so much the same, even in Africa and in the jungle. Uh, because we're basically the same, you can always hit that funny bone, and you can connect with people as long as you're honest. Honesty is the biggest point in connecting with other people, because if you're lying, it won't be genuine. People can actually feel that energetically.
Yeah.
A lot of grifters, a lot of scammers, and it's so easy to scam now with AI and the technology we have. It's scary. So I'm going to continue to stick to good old fashioned memes, and I will branch out into videos from time to time. But the stuff I put, it's so much effort to put into something that might not get any visibility. To spend 2 or 3 days working on a video that will be seen by 100 people. Again, I'm doing it for myself, so I don't care. But it does get discouraging when you have the potential. If it would just put your stuff on the main page, I'd have a couple. I may have 100 million followers if I got the eyes on it. That if I wasn't suppressed by algorithms and shadow banned, and I mean whole accounts, Venmo I banned. I even got banned on Telegram, and Telegram is like the extreme of the that right wing
You
extremism,
did?
and yeah, I don't know why. They never explain it, but so I've been on very liberal platforms banned, and I know why. But and again, I've been banned on extreme right wing platforms. So some truth that I'm putting out there, somebody doesn't want to hear, or they report, or the powers that be don't want
Yeah.
any. That exists. I do believe I'm on lists after 2020 of
Yeah.
guys that are to be watched and suppressed, because there's certain people that just nail it. And especially if you like, if you can be extreme, I think a lot of the extremists are kept because it is a trade-off of like, okay, I'm going to be able to be extreme because the algorithm likes the fact that I'm keeping these people entrained to these little black magic mirrors. And
Uh-huh.
so if you're too centered and if you're too truthful, you're gone, because you actually are providing something that is antithesis to what the system wants, which is okay. If you're going to have a conspiratorial message, there might be 75 to 100 to like 95% true, but that 5% to 25% that's false, we're going to use that. We're going to keep that rage bait going. We're going to keep the truth kind of like kind of hidden. It's kind of there, but there's so much falsehood included that who's to believe some of this stuff? So I do believe some of these people wear masks like Mission Impossible. I do believe that they're potentially cloning, but it gets so far out there and it's so extreme. Those people look like kooks. So it's like, we're going to give you content engagement because you look like a kook, even though there's a lot of truth to what you're putting out. I meet those people all the time. I'm like, you are a disservice to the truther movement, because you're not being discerning with what you're putting out. You're not having you're not using your logic. You're getting fed by the algorithm more and more. And the thing about polarity, anything polarizing, you're going to have both sides like going at each other. Where if you're centered, you're not going to have that battle, and you're going to find a bunch of other centered people who are going to look at this and say, "Oh, he's funny. I'm just going to scroll. Maybe I'll give him a like." But you enrage people, and they're going to start making comments, and they're going to start sending it to their friends. And so the algorithm, even if it's mostly positive stuff is going to push it, because they'll take that trade-off of,
Yeah.
hey, we want these people on the app, we want these people looking at ads, we want these people getting the message or distorting the message to a point where they look like clowns.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it got to
Yeah.
be you got to be centered if you want to be truthful, and if you want engagement, engage in a half truth.
I've been noticing, there's a couple of accounts that I think fit that bill. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with Clavicular. You familiar with this guy?
Sounds familiar.
So he's like 20 some odd years old, and his whole thing is like look maxing
Oh
and
yeah, 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 yeah. I know him. Yeah,
right, mogging
yeah.
people. Basically, it's this like aesthetic elitism, right? The chiseled jaw. Everybody knows about mewing, but he's like, the sort of taking the Chad Giga Chad meme, making it in himself. But some of the stuff that he talks about is so ridiculous. I mean, he's admitted, whether he is or not, he's admitted that he's infertile. He's sterile now because of all of the supplements and all of the peptides and all of the injections.
Wasn't this the guy that was doing meth, microdosing meth as
Yeah.
one of his
Yep.
methodologies to maintain that look? Yeah,
Yep.
I
Yep.
know this guy. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's extreme.
Very extreme, and he's now been on sort of Daily Wire podcasts. He's been on a number of other podcasts, and people are platforming him because he is extreme. And he's like, like, I don't pay any attention to the trans movement because it's raising my cortisol, and that's taking away from, it's going to give me bags under my eyes if I get stressed out. It's going to make me look older. And then he's like, I'm on meth right now. And they're like, no, you're not. He's like, no, I definitely am on meth right now. And this is the reason why, is because it allows me to be more productive and create more content at a higher volume. And it's like the algorithms like this guy who is in his 20s, sterile, looks good, is terrible. This is Andrew Tate is another one, right? Like they allow, yes, he's been banned, but also the powers that be are allowing a guy like that to elevate to a level of awareness, because it spikes people's cortisol, because it keeps them
and you said a key word there. He supports the message, which, if sterility, if that's true, anything that supports the message, whether it's through, like Kanye West was for years for materialism, right? He had great messages in his music and encouraged things, outside the box thinking. And George Bush doesn't care about black people, but they kept him going because he pushes materialism,
Right.
gold chains and fashion, all this stuff, to keep that community entrained in that world. And so with this example, you're talking about, okay, sterility, that's the big one. Anybody that pushes anything, whether it's feminism, whether it's anti-family content, whether it's, drugs that will make you sterile, anything that pushes no more people, anti-population growth, those people are pushed to the top. Even though they might have, like I said, 90% of that stuff is true, legitimate. Ultimately, it leads to a life of solitude or drug abuse or infertility or sterility, abortion. Push them to the top.
Right. 100%. 100%. The other sort of characters that I follow and just fascinated by is like, this is more like Twitter, but Raw Egg Nationalist author. You familiar with Raw Egg Nationalist? Yeah. Like, what's interesting is that by nature of some of the things that these sort of like masculine, domineering, sort of Patrick Bateman style archetypes, this sort of like dark masculine energy, eventually gets to conspiracy. They eventually get to a point where they're like, we need to protect our race, we need to protect our masculinity, and then it goes over into another direction where it's like, oh, you lost me, you lost me somewhere along the pathway. But they still get massive followings and people following along, because there is some truth to what they're saying. Even the most sensational stuff, like you said, has a bit of truth in it. And yeah,
polarity gets content engagement. It's as simple as that. And I've learned that the hard way. And I'm going back to center, and it hasn't been. I mean, the thing is, if you can still hit that collective nerve, you're gonna, the algorithm will not push you, but by virtue of people associating with it and pushing it themselves by sharing it and, sending it to their friend and commenting, those things are also pushed because it's like Hollywood. I believe that a lot of these people are compromised. They've sold their soul to the devil, blah, blah, blah. But there are, I think, legitimate people that have talent, that have somehow muscled hard work, blessings of God, virtue, that are, virtuous people. It's a much smaller percentage. But in general, I think a lot of those people just are, compromised, and they willingly have sold their soul in whatever fashion to the powers that be to push messages, and in return, they gain fame, money, and notoriety. Same thing goes on online. There are hardworking people that are telling the truth and doing their best, and those messages will make it. Sometimes they'll get hijacked, or sometimes those people that are pushing the message and they're truthful, they get sidelined, they get distracted, they get involved in controversy, and a lot of times it comes down to money, which is why I've tried my best to keep money out of this, to keep it pure, to keep the content pure, so I don't have to worry about going back on something because I'm gonna lose 50,000 followers. I'm gonna lose X amount of money because I walk something back. I was like, no, I'm honest. I don't have no vested interest financially or anything at this point. I'm relatively anonymous life, which I'm happy about. I don't have to deal with anything stupid or insane stalkers, which is another reason I kind of hold back from being more online, showing my face, and being more take charge with this, movement. It's not worth it. And again, I'd much rather have. I'm beholden to no one. I have no contracts. I have nobody that is above me that says you have to say this. Like The Rock, for example, these celebrities that come out and push the vaccine because their master says it's time to, pay your end of the deal for us. Get out there and push the vaccine. It's what they do. That's part of the deal.
Yeah.
So it's been very important for me to stay financially independent and not depend on the content to pay my bills.
Yeah. Yeah. It gets, from my perspective, having been on this train for a long time, starting float centers and starting podcasts and feeding my children, working with people one-on-one, doing coaching, is the stakes get higher. And I've left a lot of money on the table by staying in my truth and doing what's right. The sponsorships that I've gotten for the podcast, from AG1 to amino acids to workout equipment to all sorts of manner of different, health and biohacking stuff. I still get to have conversations like this. I still get to have Float Universe on the pod to talk about conspiracy and culture and spirituality. And what's encouraging for me to see is, there are certain larger podcasts that are broad that seem to vary their interviews with people who are more provocative. I always, like the Chris Willickses of the world, former model, the dude, chiseled out of stone. He's doing podcasts. He's doing conspiracy podcasts now. He has Alex Hermosi coupled with, conspiracy content, and it's encouraging to me, because I think that guys like that, guys like Huberman, guys like like that, have been supported and propped up. And Huberman's from Stanford Research Lab, which is like the epicenter of eugenics and the origin of MK Ultra. Like, he works there and he is promoted into this place, but is still open to having broader ranging conversations. And, the golden god, Joe Rogan himself, who you and I have been following for a very long time, especially within the float industry. He does conversations with people that he's encouraged by, that he's just a curious person. Of course, he has some flaws. Of course, I'm sure he's cut corners. I'm sure that he's, I don't know that he's done the Faustian bargain thing.
Oh,
yet.
He definitely has. He definitely has. Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
The minute he did that Spotify deal, that was when that was, basically confirmed. 200 million or whatever he got. And since then, who knows how much more. But I was a big Joe Rogan fan when he was more underground, right? And that's what the point where the float industry really, I think, that I don't know if it's the renaissance or the beginning of really the explosion of it becoming a thing. And all these people like you and me getting inspired I want a float tank, but I can't really put one in my house, so I got to do a business. That was my thing. It's like, these things are a pain in the ass, man. It's a 24/7 relationship with a float tank, whether you own it privately or publicly. And every time, somebody come into the float center, oh, Joe Rogan, Joe Rogan, Joe Rogan, and especially this was started by a bunch of MMA people. This float center ended up buying, but over the years, diluted. He got more and more diluted as his fame grew, and he has to walk. He used to be much more raw in the beginning. And I to a point where once he got on Spotify, I'm not a Spotify fan to begin with, but once he got on Spotify, unless it was like a huge guest like Elon Musk or Kanye West, a lot of these things, I'm like, okay, these people are pushing an agenda. He's a gatekeeper. I haven't listened to Joe Rogan in years. I don't really listen to too much podcasts anymore because I just don't have time in the current situation I'm in, especially as a content creator. How are you supposed to create content and absorb all these other things, right? It's a tough, unforgiving job as a content creator, whether it's videos or podcasts, because you always got to be, as soon as you post your podcast or your video, you're exhausted and you got to go right back to research or editing. And it's like, man, this is a cycle that never ends. But, at a certain point where I will listen to a podcast, I'm like, this shit is genuine. And then there's lots of people that are compromised, either pushing the agenda because they have to, or it gets them clicks and money and I don't know. Podcasting too, I love it, and I see a lot of them fall off. Either they get burnt out or they get too big, and then their content changes. Joe Rogan has changed over time. I still like him. I have nothing against him. He was a super crucial cog in the float industry. He'll always have that. And he is the father of podcasting of the modern day situation we have. He started all that. So credit where credit is due. But you get too big, and then you also really have to start, you have to, you're beholden to your paymasters and your contracts, right? Joe Rogan can't say everything he wants to say. He can't bring anybody he wants to bring on.
I believe you. I agree with you to a certain extent. I have cut way back as well. The things that I'm working on and rolling out this year in personal development and in courses and stuff that I've been building and cultivating for a long time, it requires more attention than I have to listen to every 3-hour episode that's twice a week. I just can't do it. There are just a couple of people that are kind of blacklisted. Owen Benjamin is one that.
Well, that was the thing when Spotify took over. They said these are the people and the podcast episodes you have to get rid of, and you can't find Owen Benjamin. And I've kind of fallen off the wagon for him too, because I used to think he was hilarious. In the past year and a half, I'm like, yeah. Again, and it's him being brought back into the mainstream where he's softening his content to be more agreeable to more people. That's the trade-off. It's always a trade-off. And I've seen it happen with him where when he was really banned in the beginning and kicked off and on his own, much more aggressive and raw. I thought he was funnier, and he would hit the nerves on purpose that most people wouldn't touch.
Yeah.
Whereas as he got brought back onto Twitter, as his audience expanded and he's been more mainstream, he's still not mainstream, but he's gotten softer. And I've kind of said, okay, I need more. I'm just like an addict. I need more and more extreme. I need more and more extreme takes. I want brutal honesty. I don't want you, kowtowing to advertisers or people that send you super chats.
Super chats. Yeah.
So
or in his case, booking piano lessons. Like that's his.
At this point. I'll listen to him from time to time. He's one of the few that I still listen to from time to time. You're on my thing. If something interesting pops up, I'll listen to you. But I'm at a point where I don't have a lot of time. I'm not in a car. I'm not flying. I don't have a lot of time to sit there for more than maybe 5, 10, 15 minutes and listen to long form content. A lot of people have great jobs where they're stuck all day, and they're like they listen to you all day long, and Owen and everyone else. And I used to be like that. I used to have long haul driving jobs and flying, and I listened to tons and tons of podcasts. But as soon as they put Joe Rogan on Spotify, they said you got to get rid of a lot of these episodes that are troublesome, problematic people with problematic ideas that don't fit into our agenda as a company.
Yeah, and we need that. We need all the provocations that we can, because we'll just see if they stand up. We'll see if they check out. They should be challenged and batted around. If you've got an idea or a theme, a thesis that you want to present, like throw it up into
Well,
the.
that's another thing I don't like about podcasts anymore. It's like interviews on TV, a bunch of softball questions. Like, ask the real questions here. Don't be worried about being friends with this person. Like, be a real journalist. Like, don't kiss their ass in the green room afterwards and go have steak dinner with them. I want real, like, hard answers and hard questions. I want you to be uncomfortable. I want you to be accountable. And that's another thing I stopped watching. Definitely news on TV. I don't watch TV at all. It's just all softball agenda crap.
Yeah.
Even a lot of these podcasters that have somebody gone controversial or that could have interesting takes, and it's softballs. I'm like, come on, man. And I'm like, I'm not interested in that. I want the truth. And if you're going to give me a half truth and a softball throw and a girly little hit, I'm good. I'll spend my own time, just working on my own ideas and listening to somebody give me half truths and soft dicks. I don't need it.
I don't need a soft dick either.
Oh man, give me that hard on. Give me the real juice, man. Give me the real vibe.
Flo, give me the real juice. What in your experience in culture and spirituality and masculinity and addiction and the zeitgeist of public opinion, what do you think is the most nefarious thing that most people have no idea about?
Easy.
Okay.
Go. What's the second part?
Well, if we start naming names, which I want you to do,
I'm not going to name a name. I'm going to name an industry. It's called pornography.
Okay.
That is the silent killer of men today. I wholeheartedly believe. I mean, we got a thing called gooning now, a whole culture of like, extreme, long. You know what gooning is?
Yeah.
Okay. So for those that don't know, you're sitting there hours on end, edging basically on sometimes either an amphetamine or whatever other drug. Weed is a popular one in the gooning community. And it's reached the point where it's on YouTube now, like people addressing this issue. And so, and again, another reason why pornography is pushed is it leads to sterility. It leads to, not successful nuclear, growing families. It leads to all kinds of conflict and strife and cheating. And, so if I could snap my finger today and address something that needs to be addressed openly and dealt with, if I could get rid of it, I would. And I'm an artist. I'm a huge, freedom of speech person, blah, blah, blah. But I'm anti-pornography. It is. And the thing was, I'm guilty of as anyone else growing up. I grew up with the internet and I grew up being a guy and hey, hot chick. I was in college. Hey, it becomes normalized. It becomes, and a lot of these things that are in pornography are brought into the culture. Whether it's violent sex acts or, shaving, like pubic hair shaving came from pornography. It's a whole dark rabbit hole I don't recommend anybody going down. But if I could do anything culture-wise to change it, it would be 100% without a doubt. For men, women is a different story. I would say feminism has ruined women in terms of like, it pushes the agenda of, again, like anti-family, sterility, no procreation, be a boss, babe, but come home to your bank account and your, 3 or 4 cats. I tell people invest in pet food, invest in cats, because I read something the other day in by 2030, close to 50% of women will not be in a relationship, will not have a child. And I'm talking about women that are of that age, not grannies. So the biggest issue we face is men and women aren't getting together anymore. The internet's destroyed things. Okay, feminism has destroyed women. Pornography has destroyed men. And the internet has just potentially destroyed us all. It's a great tool, but if used incorrectly, whether it's dating apps like Tinder, women have an infinite possibility of leveling up, and that's just their nature, a hypergamy, right? They're always wanting to level up. And 50 years ago, you had what you had in town, and that was it. You got together with the guy from high school or maybe in college, and you didn't get. There was no dating sites. It was just whatever was. If you were single or if you were a cheating personality, you'd go to a bar. Now it's Facebook, Instagram, and then not to mention all the endless dating sites where it's just a smorgasbord of options for women. So feminism, pornography for men, and internet for us all. I truly believe, especially pornography, is to answer your question, that would be the thing I would say.
Who owns or runs the pornography industry?
I mean, do I even have to answer that? But for the sake of your audience, I'd say upwards of 90% of, maybe more, is owned by, you know, I used to be a little bit more open with saying it, but I don't know your audience as well. But that's too much of a generalization. But in terms of, if you look at the heads of these major companies that own them, yeah, descent. So 90% plus of pornography, and just like all the media and government too. And that's the reason why pornography is free. It is a weapon, right? It is weaponized against men. Like, I can't remember what country it was in the middle of a war with them, and they gave them pornography, the opposing side, and they won easily because the men were just sitting inside jerking off, right? It's the single most issue out there that, if it's not addressed and it's actively pushed, right? OnlyFans content. Now, this is insane.
Dark.
That only way OnlyFans is going to make any money is if you have a substantial social media following. And so a lot of women that get into this, they're selling their pictures $5 to $20, and they got what, their little circle of friends in their community. That's it. They're not making any kind of money where it's going to make any difference whatsoever. And then everybody's going to know what they look like. Their pictures are going to be potentially out on the internet forever. It's not a good business proposition for like 99% of the women that engage in it. And I'm not promoting it, but numbers wise, unless you have a giant audience, you're not going to make any money worth ruining your life over. And again, a lot of these, like all these big porn stars that are like, oh, take my Lana Rhoades and I think it's Riley Reid recently, is like, hey, pull my stuff off. I don't want to be associated with this anymore. It's too late. You made that deal. Right. Your stuff is basically out there forever. So yeah, I mean, it's a weapon. It's weaponized, and it's doing a great job because men don't want to date anymore. Women want to sell their bodies online, and it's the chaos that ensues. Just, it's demonic. I know I don't want to have that angle, but there is a sinister side to it. The industry doesn't produce healthy people, by the way. If you look at women and men, suicide and drug addiction, one of them was taking so much ketamine, they sent her to a home to get, a drug center to get cleaned up, and they dropped the ball on her, and now she's in a lucid but vegetative state. I forget what they call that. I can't remember the porn star's name either. Emily Willis. Terrible what happened to her.
Whoa.
But I forget what it is. Like you're in a waking coma. You can't move. You're catatonic. But using the ketamine to cope, right? So you don't find success stories, coming out of the pornography industry. It's usually death or drug addiction. A lot of that death is suicide. And, broken families too. You ruin your relationship with your family once you become, you're spreading your legs on the internet. So that would be the single issue, even worse than feminism. Feminism has its, also, how do we define feminism? Which is why I'm not going to get into that. There's different waves of feminism. I think of feminism, somebody else will think of it a different way. Like, oh, he's anti-feminism. He wants women in chains. No, that's not it. There's nuance to it, which I'm not going to get into. But I'm gonna stick to the pornography argument. So yeah, it's weaponized. It's killing you. It's killing your soul. And if you come to it, if you jerk off, you are wasting your energy, literally. All that creative energy that could be used to enhancing your life, bettering your life, creating an invention or art. All the greatest athletes, a lot of the greatest thinkers. Steve Jobs was, again, to bring him up, he was he practiced semen retention. They say Leonardo da Vinci was either gay or celibate. They don't know for sure. But again, one of the greatest minds of the whole world. And then let's see Tesla, Nikola Tesla, celibate, right? His girlfriend was a pigeon. It's true. He had pet pigeons, and one of them was he was in love with her, and when she died, his life took a turn for the worst.
Huh.
But Tesla was a celibate. Look at all the things he invented and brought to the world, right? So, and Kanye West has said this, or Mike Tyson, pro athletes before a big event, wrestlers, all this stuff, they save their essence, and that's a very deep spiritual rabbit hole you can go down, and that's another way pornography robs you, right? If you're finishing to completion. Not to mention all the brain rot and all the damage, like the dopamine hit, constantly taking that ride. So for somebody who's been on both sides, it's better without it. It is a weapon. I mean, if anything, if you don't like the Jews, just get mad. Look at pornography, and be like, oh no, it's the Jews, right? Try to recontextualize it if you have to, but don't look at it. Don't give it your energy. It's free for a reason.
Right, exactly right. You are the product, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Um I
What would
guess
you
this,
do? What would you change?
uh I think that everybody has to detox. Everybody has to, I mean, that's we
One hundred
we have
percent.
we have to stay on top of detoxification all the time. All the time. We just had a gal in her 4th day of her dry fast. She's a healthy person, former nurse, yogi, meditator, eats really clean. She was in the 4th day of her dry fast, and she had scheduled massages for each of the days, because what happens is, your blood gets thick on the dry fast, and so massage helps move the lymphatic fluid through the
Mm-hmm.
body to increase the detoxification. So very healthy, petite woman in her 50s. She went off on our group call yesterday. She's described what happened to her on the 4th day. The 4th day is when you start to get stem cells. That's when the stem cells come out of the long bones in your legs, and they're pluripotent. They go wherever they need to go. And she was hoping for a detoxification, even though she eats really clean and has a clean lifestyle. She was telling us about, after her massage on the 4th day, in the midst of the stem cell proliferation, she got off the massage table and proceeded to purge parasites for 4 hours.
Oh yeah, I'm big anti-parasite, big time. Yeah.
Beehole, vagina, ears, eyeballs. She was describing how parasites were coming out of her eyes, and she would wipe them away and look at
Oh.
them, and wipe them away and look at them, and wipe them for 4 hours. She
Mm.
had, and those are coming out of her brain, right?
Yeah.
They're not going to hang out in your eyes. They're being starved. And then you go through this detox, this Herxheimer reaction from this massage. These parasites are just coming out of her eyes, one after another, like whoop, pulling them out. The detox, you can do it in so many different ways. I've been promoting and positioning detoxification in various different protocols: liver and gallbladder flush, mega dosing vitamin C, obviously dry fasting. Even if you eat really clean, 100% organic, you live on a farm, you pick things out of the ground and put it in your mouth and eat it, and you're a super healthy person, you're still a victim of geoengineering. You're still getting sprayed from the skies. So you're taking in these toxins, that all these metals that are coming down out of the clouds that are being sprayed onto you. What happens is that you get heavy metal poisoning. And what the parasites do is they feed on those heavy metals. Different types of parasites eat different types of metals inside the body,
Mm-hmm.
including aluminum and barium, excess amounts of iron. So you get this buildup of parasites, which are actually kind of like a cleanup crew, but they wouldn't be there unless you would 86 them, unless they were actually had a food source, which is all these heavy metals. So that's, in my opinion, before you make lifestyle changes or during the process of changing the way that you think about the world and think about yourself, and meditation and spiritual advancement and reading things and getting in touch with your spirit guides. I think we talked about spirit guides when I was on your podcast a couple of
Yeah.
years ago. Before, during, and after that, you have to detoxify.
Definitely.
Your system is so noisy with toxins and gallstones and parasites and heavy metals and toxoplasmosis and all these things that are all going on in your body. It's really hard to be productive. It's really hard to stay on track when everything is being derailed by this noise of toxins inside your body. So
I couldn't agree more. I think most people are absolutely hijacked by parasites that get to the point where they literally materialize into a demon that is like, hey, I want you to eat sugar. And it's not you consciously that wants to do it. It's this, you're unconscious. Parasites are in control, and they are, they're self perpetuating. They want to keep their life cycle going. So please eat the bad food. Please eat the things that are going to continue to fuel me, which is why I'm anti, as much as I almost impossible to avoid it. Sugar, I think, is the fuel to a lot of these little demons inside of us. And
100%.
I couldn't agree more. You want to cleanse that temple out to invite that Holy Spirit in. A lot of spiritual process does involve, fasting. I forget which verse it is in the Bible, but there's translations of the Bible now where they take the whole fasting part out because they don't want you to know, if you want to confront demons, fast.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah,
You got to starve them.
It's a purification process. It's in Zoroastrianism. It's in the Baha'i, Islam. John the Baptist did dry fasts. If Lazarus, essentially going into a dead and fasted state and then, arising again. It's in Buddhism. It's in Hinduism. It's in everything, because your body knows what to do. Your body knows how to clean shit out. Your dog that's injured or sick doesn't eat or drink water when they're sick for a reason, because it needs to fast. It needs to purify its body. So yeah, I think everybody should do it. And if you've never done any sort of, if you've never done niacin and sauna, you should do that. If you've never megadosed vitamin C, you should do that. If you've never skipped a meal or gone a couple of days, maybe you want to start with water fasts for a day or two to kind of understand what it feels like to really be hungry, and then working your way up to 1, 3, 5, 7, 11 day dry fast.
Which is why
it is hard. It's really hard.
Over Christmas, it's like, okay, we're going to have a month of orgies here, basically food orgies of Thanksgiving and Christmas time and the New Year's, almost a month of food orgies, and you're promoting the antithesis, which is great. I'm like, get real, okay? You're not only dealing with their own urge to want to eat, right, to engage in the spectacle, but you're dealing with social pressures, which are insane. Right. That's the biggest issue. And then also when you do actually want to get out of the ditch and seek the better food, it's very hard to find. Whether is this got pesticides? It's a vegetable, but does it have pesticides on it? Is it grown? Is it GMO? Or with the processed food, basically the advice they say of staying out of the middle of the grocery store, is true. You only want to get the milk and the meats and the fruits and the vegetables, all that processed crap you can avoid. But again, I support the message. I struggle with myself, and I'm not a big food guy, but it's like, come on, man. Like, the cultural pressure to conform, especially during the holidays, you're asking the impossible of people, which is commendable. Yeah, it's true. You're 100% right. I don't disagree with you at all, but it's like, okay.
It's a tough pitch.
I mean, that's worse than me, bitching about weed. It's like, no. People like to eat. I'm not a foodie, but I know so many people that's their drug, right?
Sure.
My mom is the sugar.
Yeah,
and I'm trying so hard. My mom, I gave up weed. You got to give up sugar. So hard to do. And even when it's like not a candy bar or ice cream, it's like, that's bread, that's pasta, that's sugar.
That's sugar. Yeah, and those are the parasites that want it.
Right.
Well, let's land this plane. I've asked this question. I got away from it for a couple of years, just for whatever reason. I don't know, mixing it up a little bit. But I definitely want to hear your response. And this is a fill in the blank question, and you can elaborate as much or as little as you want. This can be whatever topic you want, but please fill in the blank. Everyone would benefit from knowing
their inner self. A lot of people live externally. There's so much noise. It's actively discouraged in the society. There's so much distraction. But to seek, the kingdom of heaven is within, and you have to go inward to get there. I think all the answers to your problems, and which is why I promote the float tank still to this day, is because I think it's the single greatest tool that is legal, that is good for you. Because maybe acid isn't the best for your brain. We don't know. Maybe in a couple 100 years, we'll know, hey, we've been doing acid for 200-300 years now. Maybe not the best thing. Mushrooms, I think, are safe. Ayahuasca, horror stories there from time to time. But the float tank is 1,000 pounds of Epsom salt, 93.5 degrees. You're in a womb, right? Everybody describes it as being in a womb. You're laying there naked. At a certain point, you can't tell where your body ends. And, like your body and the water are the same temperature for people that don't know. So you lose complete body awareness at a certain point, and become an infinite consciousness in a void, which is very hard to attain outside of being born in a community where meditation is, pushed, and then you have the space to do it, which is, you got to live in somewhere where there's a cave or somewhere very natural and closer to nature than most of us are living currently. So yes, to go within, and the greatest tool to reach, I think, available today is the float tank. So that would be my big push, is to know yourself. That's been huge for me. It's helped me solve the physical ailments. It's helped me understand why I have continued to manifest the same relationship issues. Got to know yourself, right? Because you are ultimately attracting that which you are, and also the judgment of things too. All this inner work leads to all these discoveries, and everybody's going to have a subjective, different journey. It's not always going to be the same, but that float tank, that the stillness is unparalleled. It really is. And for me, I couldn't do lotus position, my neck and my hips and my back. It's painful. That pain brings me into body awareness. A lot of people don't have what it takes to stare at the wall, which is a Zen practice, or lay down even. They just can't calm down. So the float tank is going to give you that ability to get into that space. It's going to cut off as much sensory as they can do. You can't fully cut off the sound. You might hear some clicks on the wall, or you might hear you're going to hear your own heartbeat, right? A powerful thing for pregnant mothers to connect with their baby in a float tank. But it's the closest you're going to get without being a 20-year expert of meditation. And it'll be like after 2 or 3 sessions. I think the first session, a lot of people are going to have that initial shock of what is this, and the novelty, and it feels good. They might even pass out. A lot of people pass out because they've never had that opportunity to let their body relax for that long. And then you get the benefits of the magnesium. You're laying in 1,000 pounds of Epsom salt. So again, I'm preaching to the choir here, but for the sake of the audience, 1,000 pounds of Epsom salt, magnesium levels. Most people are magnesium deficient, as you know. So you're going to get your magnesium. Your skin's going to feel amazing. I mean, a lot of people psychologically, physiologically, they come out of the float tank looking 5, 10, 15 years younger just by the amount of stress that they've left behind in the tank. There's a reason I've dedicated myself to it to this point. And if the float tank wants to bring me back and to serve it again, which I did for years, I will. I've had many opportunities over the past few years to almost go back into it, but for whatever reason, it didn't work out. But to answer your question, the inner journey is the most important thing you can do. And the best tool to get there is the float tank.
Here, here, brother. I'm with you 100%.
How often do you float? Do you still float?
No, it's been a number of months. I go through waves. Honestly, I'll go, 2 or 3 times a month for a number of months, and then I'll go for a while without it. With the amount of running around with my kids at their age, and me being in love with jujitsu and really committing myself to that, it's been calling me back though.
But I'm sure, like me though, you have the sustained benefits. Like for example, I used to tell people, you do the float tank, you're gonna start to create this groove that you can sink into naturally. You're gonna have a quietness about you that'll just happen naturally, by virtue of doing it a lot. And so I think people like me and you, it helps your meditation practice outside the tank, and it also helps you live a living meditation, by virtue of what you've discovered about the nature of reality and yourself. Okay, so. Yes, and you've been a big part of my journey as well, and in the float world. Thank you for creating Float Seattle and all the good work you've done in floating and all the other, pro-beneficial things for the mind, body, and the spirit.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate that. This has been super fun. Float Universe. Well, thank you for joining me today on the Optimal Performance Podcast.
What a blessing. Thank you so much. It's been an honor, and it's been a great conversation. This time has flown by. I didn't realize how late it was already, but I'll post this to my account as well, and we'll get the message out there.
Okay, leave your tab open.